Welcome to a new episode of the AW Confidential. I remember the day I turned 50. We were about a month into COVID lockdown. My daughter was spending her senior year of high school at home, and she baked some beautiful cupcakes. I had more than enough time for reflection, and as I blew out that one candle, yes, one candle, all I could think about was turning the big 50 and getting older. Bevy Smith is an award winning television and radio personality. She left a successful career in fashion advertising to find her authentic and happy self. By the time she was 55, she became a well known media personality, co host of the well known Bravo show Fashion Queens, and wrote a best selling book called Bevelations. She also became a TED Talk speaker and proved that it gets greater later. Bevy, welcome. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, my love. I'm so happy to be here with you. And I have to tell you, you don't look not even a bit of 50. I've seen women that defy aging, but this is insanity. So people think that you and your sisters, you and your daughter are
Yes,
sisters, right? Yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah.
I went to
Oh,
her when we moved her in the day, the big day, move-in day. She goes to, university, and literally a guy came up to me. He says, "Oh, do you know where this dorm is?" Looking at him like, "Oh, bringing my daughter."
right.
Um, First of all, I want to congratulate you. You are absolutely fab. Um, and what I love about your story is that you are such an example of what can happen when we let go of those self limiting beliefs that we all have.
Yeah.
And as women, I think there is so much pressure on holding on to our youth for dear life. Literally, I recall that feeling of anxiety, just sadness, just there was so many emotions when I turned 50, and I obsessed about all the things that I had not done yet, and
Mhm.
literally felt like I was running out of time.
Yeah.
And it's a really scary thing, and you've sort of joined that club with Angela Bassett and Taraji Henson and my Jennifer Lopez
Uh-huh.
and Halle Berry's of the world, and you've changed how we think about age. I mean, you've turned it around. You got that second act that I often speak about because I feel that I'm in my second act and the best is yet to come.
Yes.
So there was an interview that I listened to many interviews, but there was one particular interview that you talked to
Mhm.
Charlemagne the God, as we all know, and you talked about being a late bloomer
Yeah.
and how you found your true happy self later in life. And we often, I think a lot of us settle in our lives and we become afraid or intimidated. And
Mhm.
we sort of just sit comfortably or uncomfortably in that status quo. So I'm curious, what was that turning point for you, that moment that I call awakening? To the idea that there was more for you out there. When did that happen for you?
It was a process. I recently wrote something in for my newsletter. I have a newsletter now, bevysmith.com. You can go sign up. But I recently wrote for my newsletter an essay about how I literally started feeling uncomfortable in my late 20s,
Wow.
but did not have a name for it, didn't have any role models for people that had great jobs and didn't want them anymore. So I felt very isolated, and I tried to tell people I'm dissatisfied, but people were like, well, why are you dissatisfied? Your life is great. And I was like, there's just something missing. And I had no idea what that something was. So I get this inkling at 28. I quit my first job, my first executive job ever. I quit it at the age of like 29. And I quit with the idea that I'm going to find something I want to do. But I'm not at that point. I don't have enough clarity and I don't have that much bravery. And so when I'm given an offer to be at Vibe Magazine, where I could be a part of my culture, moving my Black culture forward, my hip hop culture forward, and still work in fashion, I take that. And there are no regrets for me. You know, everything is as it should be. But 29, I enter into that space thinking that's gonna solve it. And it does for a long time. I love what I do for like 5 to 6 years. I'm really very happy at Vibe. And then that restlessness came back again. And this time it was so loud and I couldn't ignore it. And I'm like 33, 34, and I'm like, I gotta change something. But I don't change until I'm 38. So it's a process, right? I'm sure there are a lot of people that are listening to us that have these little feelings inside. They can't name it. They can't put their finger on it,
I have chills right now
right?
because I
But
know what you. Yeah.
there's something wrong, or there's something that you're not pleased about, but you can't really name it because people are looking at you like, well, what's wrong? Your life is great. What do you have to be unhappy about? And you kind of feel like that too, except your spirit is restless. And so, you know, to everyone who's out there listening and who maybe is going through these kind of feelings that no one else can kind of co-sign for you, and no one else understands what you're talking about when you're telling them you're just not happy. Don't beat yourself up if you don't make a change immediately. It took me 10 years to actually pull the trigger, jump out the window, and actually change my life in a big and meaningful way. And I did blow up my life. Like in my book, I talk about being broke but blissful. So I understand why I was hesitant to do it. It's not an easy thing to do, but as I always tell people, it's also not easy to lead a mediocre life. It's not like, you know, when you have a basic life that doesn't fulfill you, that's not easy living either.
Well,
You're
it's a process, right? I mean, even when you have, for me, I call it that nagging feeling. I love the fact that you call it a restless spirit because that's literally what it is. You feel it, and sometimes you don't know what you're feeling. And I think, like you said, there are challenges. It's not easy. And before you take that first step, and it could be big or small,
yeah,
everyone's journey is different. But we all have those challenges, those tough moments. And one of the things that I wanted to touch on, to make sure to touch up on, is you mentioned that as part of your process, and I believe you discussed it in your book. You call it the red soul
yes,
proposition.
the
And
red
I
soap
want
opera.
you, yes, and I want you to talk a little bit about that because I saw it when I listened to it. It's a tool that you're giving
Yeah.
people. So I want you to talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, the red soul proposition was born out of when I actually did quit my gig and I had to kind of reestablish myself in a new space. I had to ask myself 3 questions. Who am I at my core? How am I being perceived? How would I like to be perceived? And so those 3 questions kind of became the foundation for me building my personal brand. You know, who am I at my core? I'm Little Brown Bevy. I am a curious, empathetic, adventurous person who is incredibly curious, and I'm always wanting to know the why of things, which is why I think it makes me a good interviewer. I am someone who loves to learn about other people and other cultures and different things like that. And that's who I am at my core. That same little girl who was like 7 years old, who liked to skip in the hood, and who liked to, play hooky in a library.
On
Is
50th and 8th.
Yes, exactly. 158. She shows up time and again. That's Little Brown Bevy. That's who I am at my core. How am I being perceived? Well, when I was a high-flying fashion executive, I was perceived by many people as a bit of a bitch. Because as you know from watching The Devil Wears Prada, fashion kind of does cultivate a bitchy persona. It's like something that people don't even blink an eye at. Like, it's kind of almost a compliment when someone says that you're a bitch. And so I had cultivated that. And I realized that it was really useful for me in my career, but it wasn't so useful for me in my life and in my personal life, because there's a toxicity that comes with being bitchy. And I wanted to release that, which brought me to How Would You Like to Be Perceived? And the title of my book is Bevelations, Lessons from a Mother, Auntie, Bestie. And I realized that I wanted people to trust me, and I wanted people to feel like they could talk to me. And I wanted people to feel like I was someone that could teach them and someone that could be a mentor. And so that's where the second part of the book title comes from. And I'm happy to say that now when I look at my life, the mother, auntie, bestie shows up far more than the bitchy self shows up. So I accomplished my goal. And the Red Soul proposition is really named after Christian Louboutin, the shoes, because once upon a time, there was no Louboutin, there was Manolo Blahnik. And then Louboutin came along, and all of a sudden, no one wanted Blahniks, everyone wanted Louboutins. And what was the difference? A red soul. So now I'm asking people to ask themselves those three questions and try to craft what your red soul is. And my red soul is my authenticity. My red soul is my empathy. My red soul is the fact that I am a teacher, that I'm a guide, that I'm a mentor. Those things are my red soul, and they come through with all the work that I do, and they make me successful. That's my red soul.
I love that. I love that. It's one of the things that has caught my attention because it's very it's very impactful if you do the exercise.
Yeah,
So congratulations on that.
thank
Now, I watched it twice.
you.
Your TED Talk. It's how to discover yourself at any age. And during it, you shared your journey from corporate success to personal happiness. So my question for you is, how do you define yourself today? And what would you say to that little brown bevy, as you referred to your younger self, about the importance of finding self love and self worth? Because I always try to incorporate that. It's so important. And I know for me, as I was growing up, that was something that was lacking for many reasons. That's another episode. But it's something that once I understood my self-worth and I embraced all of myself, gave myself that love,
Yeah.
my world changed, my decisions, the people that I had around. So I'm wondering, who are you today? How do you define yourself? And what would you tell little brown Bevy about self love and self worth?
Well, today I'm and in this moment, I'll just say in this moment, because, one of the things that I want people to understand is that life is not, there's no sense of permanency in life.
Mm.
We are forever evolving and changing and morphing, even when we don't know it, even when we don't want to. So right now in this moment, I am a caregiver. My mom had 2 strokes, and now she lives with me. And in this moment, I am a woman who is 56 years old, single, and a caregiver to her mother. And I have to tell you, it's been a really exhausting journey, but it's also been a very rewarding journey to be able to be there for my mother in this way and to care for her the way she has cared for me. And so what I would tell little brown Bevy is that, you may not have children, but you will be a mother, and you will have a mothering spirit to many people, including to your very own mother.
I told you not to make me cry. That was thank you for sharing that. That was really powerful.
Thank you.
Um you know, I find that life's, like you said, it's a journey and it's never easy. And you've been so open about your challenges, about your hardships, and just experiencing these tough moments. I I feel that for me, I sometimes have to read a book that's uplifting, listen to a podcast that's uplifting, watch motivational videos, maybe you, maybe Oprah. Um, but or sometimes I just sit and write something inspirational to just connect with that part of me.
Yeah.
How do you push yourself out of these low moments? And I don't mean, the low as in your spirit is low. I just mean we all have challenges, but whenever I see you, you have this positive energy flowing, and that can also be exhausting. So I know for myself, I have to find resources to help me keep
Mhm.
that energy going. So I was curious, what do you do that might help listeners?
Well, here's the thing I want everyone to know. Don't be afraid to ask for help. That's my biggest gift, is I'm not afraid to ask for help. There's so many people in this world that stand on pride, they stand on ceremony, and they will be floundering, and they will be lost, and they will be exhausted, and they will be drained, and they will have nothing left, and they will not ask for help. I ask for help. And I also take time for myself. And I say I take it. So I treasure my time, I protect it, and I take it. And I really don't feel any kind of guilt about, you know, not doing things that don't fit into what is going to be healthiest for me. So what I would say to folks is like, you have to ask for help and you have to take time for yourself. But asking for help is really very crucial, especially for anyone who thinks of themselves as a leader, as an independent person, any of that kind of ideas that you built about yourself, or maybe ideas that people have put onto you. You
Absolutely.
have to, I'm not the strong friend. I am a strong friend, but I'm also the friend that will call you and be like, I'm exhausted, I'm drained. Can you, pray with me? Can you come over for a cocktail? I have no problem. Oh my gosh, I want to go out to this thing and I don't have anyone to watch my mom. Can you come over for a couple of hours for me? I don't have a problem asking. Yeah.
And I'm glad you mentioned that because I think a lot of times we sort of feel, you know, eh, it's almost like we nurture this superwoman and we're not superwomen.
No,
So
no, no
I'm
one
glad
is.
that you mentioned that. I'm glad
Yeah,
that you
no one
mentioned that.
is. And we have to get out of that whole kind of idea, and it's not something I lean into at all. I'm very self-sufficient. I take care of myself, but I also have people that take very good care of me, and I let them.
So one of the things that I like to do to close out interviews is leave listeners with a mantra, a quote, something to inspire action or plant a seed for their journey. So what would you say to anyone who's feeling like it's too late for them and they're sort of lost and they want to find their truest, happiest self, but they're lost, they're stuck? What would you say to them?
Well, my mantra is it gets greater later, and I live by that every single day. I
Put it
live
on a
by that.
t-shirt.
It's already on a t-shirt, it's on a mug, it's on a tote bag, it's on a journal, it's on all the things. BevySmith.com. No, but it gets greater later is really what I live by. And the reason why that's so important to me is, and it really does shape you at any age, it gets greater later. It's just a constant reminder to keep going and to never, ever, ever give up, to never let anyone dictate to you what your future is going to look like. You can chart your own course, and do not give up your freedoms and do not give up your very own intuition about things. As you get older, your intuition gets stronger if you're blessed.
Yes.
And don't run from that, don't shy away from that. And also, it gets greater later means to me that the best is yet to come. I'm very excited about what's next. I was actually just thinking about that today because
Well, that was my last question. What's next for Bevy Smith?
oh, well, you know what? Right now I'm in a space of I want for nothing. It's exhausting to always be wanting something and chasing something. And I'm really tired in this season. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rest and I'm going to let things come to me. I've done the work. I am Googleable. I've won awards. I've hosted national TV shows. I have a lot of accolades and I have a lot of success. So to me, that means that I have done the work. And so I have aligned myself for what's next. So I'm simply going to rest, pray, and manifest. That's it.
You're amazing. You're amazing. I'm so happy that you granted us a few minutes. I think you are just filled with wisdom and positive energy, and I'm really grateful to you. So can you tell our listeners how to find you? I
Yes,
know bevysmith.com.
yeah, BevySmith.com. And please sign up for my newsletter. And I'm Bevy Smith everywhere on all social media platforms. And also on my radio show, Bevelations, on Radio Andy, Sirius XM, channel 102, Monday through Wednesdays, 5 p.m., and then Fridays at 5 p.m.
Thank you, my love. You're amazing. You're fabulous. Thank you so
As are
much.
you. Thank you, baby. And happy holidays. We can start
Happy
saying
holidays. That's right. And thank you for listening to another episode of the AW Confidential podcast. Talk to you soon.